Today I've got something extremely exciting for you, okay? So there's games you just want to spend thousands of hours in, right? And if Bethesda had spent a decade just making more Skyrim DLC, I think a lot of us would have just spent a decade playing it. Now beyond that, the best Fallout content is widely considered to be New Vegas. Now that's actually a game made by Obsidian, not Bethesda. And there's this hunger, right, for the Fallout world that 76 didn't fulfill. But today I've got the news that modders are coming to the rescue in massive fashion with Fallout London. It is a hugely ambitious project. I mean, even just being set in London has massive implications for the flavor of the world. As an example, it's not Vault-Tec, it's something else. So why are we talking about this? Well, they dropped an 18-minute gameplay trailer, and it has absolutely captured imaginations everywhere. It's racked up 1.6 million views in just a few days, and today you're going to learn all about the project. It really is one to be excited for, and you yourself can get ready for that Vault-Tec with today's sponsor, Brilliant. They are an app and website that provides you with fun, interactive courses in STEM. And seriously, it is awesome. Now, the last time I hopped into their computer science intro to see how they went about teaching it compared to what I did at university, and man, infinitely superior. Now, I've just finished a brilliant TV show called Devs. I love it, and it's just so good. Quantum computing is a major feature in the show. It just sparked my imagination, and it of course does all seem like spooky, impossible to understand stuff. But of course, Brilliant has a course on quantum computing. And since they teach by interaction, since you learn by doing, they've made it so that quantum computing is approachable and fun. And that's the strength of Brilliant. They bring the joy back into learning. And I don't know about you, but the classroom never really worked for me. So their style of doing it that isn't just giving you an info dump, and the interaction means that a topic actually clicks. You know the click? Whenever you're learning something and it just clicks, you get it, your imagination is sparked. That's what I find in Brilliant. I've been so busy running the channels and the game dev stuff and everything that I've fallen behind kind of in my own education. And while binging some random pop science YouTube videos is nice, with Brilliant, I actually hop in, I learn, and I have fun, and it's relaxing. Education like this is the future, so whether you want to learn yourself, or perhaps you wish to spark a younger mind's journey, visit brilliant.org/Bellular News today to get started for free. And the first 200 to click my link will get 20% off their annual subscription. It's awesome. Thanks to them. And let's talk about Fallout London. Fallout London is a hell of a project. We've just came across it. We've been diving into the research on it. Basically what you can actually expect, some flavor of the project, and a little bit of its history. It's a pretty exciting time. I mean, Outer Worlds came out. People were just thrilled. Of course, in some ways, a spiritual successor to Fallout New Vegas, given it's also Obsidian. Now it seems like we might actually get that for Fallout 4. And I know Fallout 4 itself, it had criticisms on, aspects of its writing and stuff like that. But there was no Obsidian to come in and do the follow-up game with the incredible writing that would really capture people's imaginations like New Vegas did. So perhaps then, Matt, there's some hope that London could do that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Obviously, Fallout there's something about Bethesda where they have the ability to make the settings, right? They can make the settings and make the worlds that are full of stuff and have that kind of like old school RPG vibe. But like after, maybe Oblivion was pretty okay for it, but nothing since Morrowind has had the real, this actually feels like you're playing a CRPG just in a really big open world setting. And it's like Fallout 3 had a really nice world, really well built. And then New Vegas came in and hit that kind of, here's the Fallout 3 engine that's really cool and has all this stuff in it. But here's the kind of CRPG magic that makes like you're playing through that world and engaging with all these factions so meaningful. And I feel like obviously this is a mod project, so it's hard to know what the pedigree is going to be. But based on what we've seen so far, Fallout London is very much like, not sure if you're going to get that CRPG feel, but you're going to have this, hey, this is an incredible world to actually kind of exist in and play your game in.
Yeah, it's that thing I think where Bethesda have always done a really good job at like lore and world building. Yeah. They've been a bit more weak on plot and characters. That's where Obsidian really shine with New Vegas. So as we look at this project, I think there is quite a lot of hope. I would say especially given the strength of the first 18 minutes of the game that they've showed off, which we'll get to in a little bit. Now, for some background, this is a project that actually began in winter of 2017, right? But then it properly got going really by 2018. It's led by a guy called Dean Carter. And overall, it's a team of 13 people, though, okay, core team of 13. Now it's 12. And the reason why it's 12 is because their lead writer, Stephanie, actually got hired by Bethesda. And certainly when I kind of look at what we've seen of this, it does seem that writing is a strength. And that's really good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the official announcement trailer, and as soon as you go down into the comments, it's just people going, "This isn't a Bethesda project?" Man, I could have sworn it was. Everything about it just seems so. It looks official. It's like the trailer's well edited, the voiceover's well directed, it's well written. It just has that Fallout character. So I can kind of see why the writer would be hired by them now.
Yeah, and so far we're not really getting one of those situations where it's a fan project with fan voice acting. Sometimes that can be really rumbly, even if it is just that people are using different mics in different scenarios. So you're hearing two different characters talk, and they just don't feel like they're in the same place because they're using different mics and, different setup. Now, by 2020, they had created a world space that is around the size of Far Harbor. Now, Far Harbor is one of the Fallout 4 DLCs, right? Now, Far Harbor, I'd say, is like similar to, maybe slightly smaller than Shivering Isles. Could be a little bit more intricate, of course, owing to it being a bit more new. So this is about 20% of Fallout 4's Commonwealth region. So that's what they'd made by 2020. That's pretty damn impressive, and I think when you're talking about a city where you do have a great deal of verticality and that sort of thing, and I think you do have a lot of that from looking at their locales, that's a lot of play space, right? So impressive. And this is also especially impressive considering that this is a more modern project in a more modern engine. That actually does mean you have to put more work in. You need higher fidelity assets to actually work, to play with each other, to ensure that a scene doesn't feel completely barren. You can get away with things in the Fallout 3 engine that you probably can't when you move over to Fallout 4 and things feel just a little bit more real. Now, they've been providing project updates really, I think, since like 2019. But where this game really took off into the public consciousness was the reveal trailer. That was posted June 2021. Thus far, it has 3.4 million views. And things for the project really do seem to have advanced since then. As an example, they even have a team recruitment trailer that's really good, which is, of course, trying to rally to get the troops in so they can have the production capacity for this. Another thing then that really impressed me was original soundtrack. So, I mean, they even have a Danny Boy cover, so that's always nice. Loads of songs that they have done for the radio. So that stuff's like extremely cool, as well as, of course, all of the original soundtrack for Ambient. And then, of course, what really captured people's imaginations was that 18-minute gameplay trailer. We will get to that, but first I actually want to talk about the Q1 2022 update that they posted, because while 1.6 million people have seen that trailer, not that many people have actually seen what's going on with the project. So as we take it over to their update video, first of all, they teased that they're networking with big names, and then they played a TARDIS sound. It actually turns out the two doctors at the start of the gameplay reveal are Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker, who, of course, played doctors in Doctor Who. So that's kind of neat. But overall, then, they said that currently most of their work is going towards implementation and scripting. The quote is, "We hope the end is in sight, no promises as to when."
That sounds very much like you're trying to script in a Bethesda game. It's like, this might work, it might not. We hope it'll be finished soon, please, please.
Yeah, but there they are. So what that essentially would mean then is a lot of the assets are there, the play space is there. Now it's down to implementation. So scripting the quests, scripting the characters, I mean that from a technical side, all of that stuff. Now, they did do a few other things in this. They talked through the Tommies faction, and they did a bit of a showcase. So it's quite fun with the Tommies. Basically, this is going to be great for the history nerds, as I think a lot of the Fallout factions typically have been. So they are basically a militia who are styled to basically be a retro future soldier from the Great War. Their leader, General Asquith, is loosely modeled off General Haig. Now, to those who know the First World War, perhaps watch the YouTube channel The Great War, you'll know that is, you don't want comparisons to be drawn between you and Douglas Haig, because that was very much typical of the World War I armchair general who was disconnected from the situation at the front. So I think fun basis for a character, fun basis for a faction.
Yeah, I mean, people love that like 50s vibe from the Fallout games over in the US, but I feel like considering the kind of maybe it's just because, in Northern Ireland, in the UK, we kind of have a little bit more of the view of the English kind of 1940s, 50s stuff. I feel like there's so much of that stuff that could be really, really interesting and really unique, especially to people who may not know it all that well.
Yeah, because
I feel like there's so much they could do.
When I think about that in the American context, I think of a diner. Yeah. I think of people wearing like baby blue dresses and having those baby blue colored or whatever it's called, that sort of light blue color of the cars, right? The Vault-Tec aesthetic that people know of. But that didn't really exist as much. And that's what's fun about adapting Fallout to a completely different place. They went through a few characters. Arthur of Camelot. So you know what's going on there. And Camelot actually seems to be a really cool faction. We've got John Rigby, also of Camelot. And again, you look at these and you're like, yeah, you can obviously see where this is a character made in the Fallout 4 engine, but it's like basically as good as they could do. I think this, another fantastic example. This looks like Bethesda quality stuff. It really does. That's Mad Jack, who can be a companion. And here's Chill Winston of the Vagabonds faction. So we'll get into the factions in a little bit. I actually really like the setup they've got. Yeah. On the level side then. So they ran us through a few of the zones that they've got. I've also compiled a list of all of the other zones. Essentially, Lambeth, which is where the National Theatre and the London Eye is. We've got Brixton, which is the home of the last bastion of civilization before the ruins of Croydon. Croydon is a dark wasteland, quote, a scar on the landscape containing its own fiery pit of hell.
I'm sure there's so many jokes could be made of, yeah, but what's it like in this game as opposed to now?
Yeah. We've got Eastminster, which is made of the remnants of Westminster that weren't included in the Westminster Wall, which I think is kind of like, walling things off, let's just say. So it's all slums, holding camps, things like that. But to go through some of the other areas they've got, so a lot of these will be names that you'll recognize. We've got Islington, Camden, Hackney, Greenwich, Lewisham, Bromley, City of London, Wandsworth, Westminster, Tower Hamlets, Southwark, and Newham. So, and it's quite cool just looking at all of the concept art and stuff they've shown off for all of these places. And I think London is just a city that people extremely recognize through its landmarks. Yeah. So it's very cool, and that actually some of that they show off in the 3D asset showcase. Yeah. The likes of Big Ben, St. Paul's Cathedral, Tower Bridge. I've really got to call out Tower Bridge for looking incredible. It has that almost The Last of Us Part 1 beauty to it.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah. Kind of like nature reclaiming it. I think it looks incredible. Of course, the London Eye, which is now being converted into a bit of a sort of slum situation. And, of course, many others.
Yeah.
But just, I think, perfect for creating an extremely rich world.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing. I think a lot of people who live in the places that Fallout is set in kind of may not understand how everything feels so alien to people who aren't from that area. Because you see it with like Spider-Man and stuff. You see people taking pictures of, this is where my apartment is in game. It's like, I think the kind of mysticism of it being a completely different land for a bunch of American players, it'll likely feel a little bit novel, but also kind of like really interesting. Just kind of go around especially because of like you said, the long architectural history, actually engaging with that as opposed to all the games set in the US where it's kind of don't really have that history. Really cool.
Yeah. So it is a setting within Fallout that I didn't know I really wanted, and now that I've seen it, I do.
100%, yeah. 100%.
And I think going through the factions actually gets even stronger. So we've got the gentry, who are descendants of the pre-war aristocracy and the British government ruling from Westminster. And then the Tommies, we talked about earlier, they formed as a militia who basically wanted to act as the protectors of London, but ultimately they've just turned into a tool for the gentry. Then we've got the fifth column, who are essentially the populist answer to who I just talked about. More of, it's not really going in a great direction, though, because they kind of just want to burn the world down and rebuild it in the image of Eve, who's their leader.
I relate.
Camelot. Look, do you want Fallout Knights? Because you're getting Fallout Knights.
Because people, obviously, I think people love the aesthetic of the Brotherhood of Steel. But the idea of the Brotherhood of Steel, but they're actually just in old plate armor swinging like great swords around is something I think people are really, really like. Obviously, with the history of like melee stuff being kind of so cool and interesting as a way to play Fallout, I think that with actual full knight set would be really, really fun.
Yeah, and some of the twists I really like too. Yeah. So basically, the Camelot movement is an underground organization fighting to free London from gentry rule and institute a new representative republic as the government. Now, they're inspired obviously by the Knights of the Round Table, but also World War II commandos.
Yeah.
And that is actually where, when you hop up to this character, who they basically described as a sort of like smooshed up Winston Churchill who does like radio and comms, I think that is a very cool mix of aesthetics. So I think that's awesome. A few others then. So Isle of Dogs Syndicate, basically criminal merchant syndicate with roots in pre-war crime. We got the Vagabonds, who basically are in opposition to the syndicate, now to the point where they just want to burn the whole thing down. They're essentially inspired by like Peaky Blinders. British gangsters.
Really do just kind of have everything here, don't you?
They have it all.
Actually, the only thing they might be missing is like the Kingsman aesthetic, but they've got kind of everything else, honestly.
And then we've got Angel, a secret group potentially originating from a pre-war science ministry. Essentially, secret science, and I've seen these calipers somewhere else like it. So I guess we have Fallout sciencey Masons.
Yeah.
Also, sounds really fucking cool.
Yeah, it kind of annoys me because the last time I was in London, I wanted to go to the Freemasons building, but it was closed for the day. Damn.
Now to talk about the gameplay trailer. This is the thing that, me and Matt saw, and we just kind of knew, okay, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, the entire way it's presented, it immediately clicks in your head. You're like, of course London, of course England, of course that's going to mesh perfectly with the kind of parodical style of Fallout. It's immense.
So it opens just like a Fallout game, right? We have our War Never Changes monologue. The VO is actually super strong, especially considering that this is a fan project. But basically, your character, you wake up, big tube, you're presided over by two scientists, who also do happen to be from Doctor Who, which is kind of cool. But that's where you create your character, customize your stats, your traits, all of the usual Fallout stuff. Armed people break in, kill the scientist, crack your tube, you wake up, and that's it. Fallout begins. Just like how something would happen in the vault, and you would wake up, and you would make your way through the vault, and the vault would almost be your first little tutorial dungeon where you, of course, have to punch a few rats, which, don't worry, you will do here as well. It's that. But then what really impressed me as I watched on, it's just so, all the details are right. That's it. It feels AAA.
Yeah, that's the part that I think it's kind of difficult to communicate to people when you're like, oh, everything feels right. But that's the stuff that's like, you don't kind of notice when it's there, but you notice when it's missing. When you watch a mod project and there's just a little details are off, someone kind of fubs the VO a little bit, or maybe there's a couple things in the background that don't work too well, or maybe it just doesn't feel like Fallout. But in this case, everything just kind of was like, oh yeah, I could see why people would be confused it wasn't an official game or an official DLC, because in every capacity, they know exactly what Fallout is, and they've managed to make Fallout in the same way that Obsidian were tasked to make New Vegas, and they're like, yeah, we can do that. It's like, well, how did you manage to get the Centurion Legion stuff to fit in to New Vegas? That's kind of wild. But whatever the secret sauce of Fallout is, they knew it, so it worked.
Yeah, at least from the initial 18 minutes, they've got it. The mystery, I don't want to just go through the whole thing, go watch, but the mystery is super well established.
Yeah.
And by the time, it ends, you have this train ride through London. It's all sunny. It's like it's like a near perfect opening, I think, to a game. And that was pulled off by a mod team. There's no wonder that in really not that much time at all, this has racked up 1.6 million views. I imagine that is a video that could end up at, 2, 3 easily as time goes on and as this project development continues. Next up, they have a biomes video coming out. We don't know when that's going to drop. That'll actually show us more of these in-game environments. But thus far, all that they've shown has just been stunning.
Yeah.
So that's mostly it. I do want to leave you with one thing, though. There is a project. It was called Project Brazil. Now it's the proper title of Fallout New California. Now, unlike this, it is set, I believe it's like in the New Vegas mod tools. But it is a big project. The first 2 chapters are out. It was really, really well reviewed. I forget how, but Thomas and our games team, I think, ended up talking with either their leader or their lead writer a while ago. I've completely forgotten the context. But yeah, New California is, I haven't played it, but apparently it is pretty fucking awesome. Takes place 21 years before New Vegas. So if you have been wanting that New Vegas itch scratched, you could actually go and play this now. It's on the Nexus. So with that said, I want to say a big thank you to Brilliant, today's sponsor. They do make this possible. So head up that link down below to check out Brilliant. I think Brilliant are seriously awesome. It's great when you can find brands you actually believe in. So check them out. Thanks to you for watching. And I guess just thanks the Fallout London team for being really fucking cool.
Yeah, and when Bethesda aren't making a Fallout that people really want to play, and they're focused on kind of, oh, here's a live servicey Fallout 76, so we'll put quests and NPCs in later. The fact that, you know, fans actually have the ability to go, we'll give you the Fallout you want.
Yeah.
It's great.
Young me always thought, if you just kept on making Skyrim DLCs, we'd all buy them. Seems like a pretty surefire, like you could have made Skyrim a live game just like Assassin's Creed. But I suppose they didn't have the business model innovation. Ah, dear. Okay, that's it for us. Have a great day. See you next time.